Hello, brilliant beauties. I'm Dr. J, excited to join you live tonight. Let's talk health and healing. Health is absolutely one of my favorite subjects because I changed the trajectory of my disease with biobehavioral choices. At the time, I honestly didn't know the difference between functional medicine, complementary alternative medicine, biobehavioral health. I was studying anything and everything because my diagnosis came, get this, 2 days after being laid off. And 5 months after moving our entire life from downtown Denver, where I knew everybody and felt at home, to 5 acres on the country to put a horse and barn in the yard for my daughter. And so it was a season of surprise. And to have a life altering disease really changed me in some fundamental ways that, in all honesty, I sometimes feel like a totally different person than I was before. And I often wonder, will that girl ever come back? I kind of liked her. But I'm learning that there's a new evolved version of myself that comes after disease and diagnosis. So, this week's live is dedicated to those who want to lead their loved ones to optimal health and healing, to experience the fruits of the Spirit. Scripture teaches us that those are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control. Aren't those wonderful things? I used to live a life characterized by hurry and hustle, and now live a life characterized by love, peace, and joy. I even sometimes think to myself, what if we introduced ourselves differently? Instead of asking what you do, instead ask, who are you? Because I really believe that we are so much more than our titles and the roles and responsibilities associated with them. And so I actually had a conversation with someone the other day, and he said, what if you introduced yourself as, hey, I'm Dr. J. I am love, joy, and peace. And I'm like, that's it for me. That is who I love being, and it is who I aspire to be each and every day. Hi, Rosalind. Welcome. One of the topics you don't hear discussed often in the health space, yet I think is so crucial for living a fulfilling and healthy life, is the subject of cognitive dissonance. So, we're going to explore how this mental tension impacts our choices, especially when they involve our health and well-being. And we're going to bring in some principles from systems thinking because I'm a geek at heart and I just love the systems thinking tools I learned at MIT. And we're also going to utilize scripture to guide us towards deeper alignment in our choices. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is cognitive dissonance? It's a term that psychologists use to describe the discomfort we feel when we hold a conflicting belief or we engage in a behavior that conflicts or clashes with our values. For example, you may be like me and want to be considered as health and well-being, like you value health and wellness, but you find yourself consistently craving nachos or anything smothered in green chili or sugary snacks. And so this dissonance creates an inner tension, and that can sometimes lead to stress or unwanted emotions like guilt and shame that are associated with the times when we do travel down that road and make a less than healthy choice for ourselves. In James 1, verse 8, it says, a double minded man is unstable in all his ways. You see, when we live in cognitive dissonance, it's as if we're trying to walk two different paths, and this lack of alignment leads to a sense of instability or fragmentation within ourselves. It weakens our confidence. It diminishes the power that we have within us. We are most empowered, and the research on high performance shows this, when we're congruent or aligned with our values. So I want to put together the subject of cognitive dissonance and health choices. Think about your own health journey. You might have prioritized healthy eating, exercise, some mental well-being. I know a lot of people are awakening their consciousness right now, and they're spending more time in spaces that nourish and fulfill their health and well-being. Yet we also live in a society that has certain social pressures. We have cravings based on the addictive designs of food. And we have some habits or just patterns of behavior, rituals associated with certain days of the week and certain holidays that can pull us in a direction that opposes our health and well-being. And this tension that's created by wanting to live a healthy life while making choices that conflict with that desire is a prime example of cognitive dissonance in action. In these moments, we're faced with a choice. Do we align our actions with our values, or do we adjust our values to suit our actions? Ephesians 4:22-24 gives us some guidance. It says, "Put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life, and be renewed in the spirit of your minds." The Bible encourages us to recognize when our actions no longer serve our highest purpose and to make choices that are in alignment with our values. It's why in the sugar fast, we're swapping sugar for Scripture. Today, I'm going to be honest with you. For some reason, all day I have wanted sugar. I've been picturing this raspberry chantilly like cake that an ex-boyfriend of mine used to feed me every once in a while, and I was just wanting that. And then I was thinking about this trail mix that's pretty laden with these sugary little yogurt covered cranberries and white chocolate chips and little peanut butter chips and just all these really sugary things embedded into the trail mix that I had convinced myself is, quote, healthy because it's better than a Twix bar. But is it really? I don't know. But recognizing and practicing turning to Scripture when you notice a craving. So I'm trying to replace the habit of craving and then responding to the craving versus craving and swapping that sugar with Scripture. So I like to call that simple swaps. In my head, I think to myself, what is a simple swap I can make in this moment? And it might be that if I really feel I need sugar, I might have to replace that desire for sugar. This week I was on a vacation, and when I was in Destin Beach, a lot of times when I'm on a vacation, I allow myself to indulge in some sweet treats. So this time what I did is I swapped the craving for sugar with cranberries, blackberries, bananas, oranges. So those were the fruits that I enjoyed during my holiday. Let's talk systems thinking. Systems thinking teaches us to see beyond isolated choices, if then kind of statements, and to recognize that there is an interdependent ecosystem that includes our behaviors and our beliefs. Our health is a part of a much larger system that includes our mental, emotional, spiritual, and social well being. When we apply systems thinking to health, we begin to see how a small choice, like what we eat, or how we manage stress, or who we spend time with, has ripple effects into every single dimension of our lives. Systems thinking invites us to look at our health in a more interdependent, holistic way. Proverbs 27:17 says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." This verse speaks to that idea of interconnectedness. Our environment, including the people around us, shape our choices, and we in turn shape theirs. By choosing health, we're not only supporting our own journey, but we influence those around us. I know that during my cancer journey, as I gave up, I had to eliminate sugar to starve cancer cells because due to the layoff, I had a big gap between when I could get my surgery and all of these health insurance pieces of the puzzle that needed to be put together. And so I thought about, how do I starve these cells? Well, cancer feeds on sugar. So eliminating sugar was part one. Then I also remembered Chris Carr's book, Crazy Sexy Diet. And I started to learn things like cancer can't survive in an alkaline environment. Cancer cells can't survive certain HZ frequencies. And I discovered the Rife machine. And I was realizing there were a lot of biobehavioral choices that I could make in this moment. And of course, what do? Because I'm a mathematician at heart. I make myself a spreadsheet. And I start tracking each of those choices and monitoring their effectiveness in a journal. So we're going to talk about how do we apply these concepts to reduce the amount of cognitive dissonance, or remember the tension between what we value and our actions, and make choices that will lead us to fulfilling lives. I'm going to give you 4 things that I want you to do this week. The first is to identify your core values. When you identify what truly matters to you, you stay more committed. And so you might even write these values down on a Post-it note and place them on your bathroom mirror where you'll see them multiple times a day. Ask yourself, am I really committed to health and vitality and peace of mind? I have literally a dish towel that hangs over my stove and it says, "Good food, good mood." It's my constant visual cue in the kitchen that reminds me that what I eat influences my mood. And so I want you to write down the values that you possess and reflect on how are those values showing up each day? How are they influencing your decisions? Maybe you're in cognitive dissonance as well and you're out of alignment and we need to shorten that gap. Step 2, examine your current choices. So similar to how I had my spreadsheet of biobehavioral choices and how I monitored my progress each day, I want you to keep a food journal, even if it's just for a week, and take an honest look at your habits and behaviors. Pay conscious attention to what do you really want. I did this journey with a student of mine called the Conscious Cleanse. And what I realized at the end of the day when I thought I wanted a glass of wine was actually that I wanted to detach from responsibility. So in this second step, as you examine your current choices, I want you to start practicing that level of consciousness to ask yourself, is this what I really want? Because guess what, friends? Toxins aren't treats. Our body doesn't actually want these things. It's in our mind that we think we want it, and that's because we've formed an association with that thing. And so we have to explore, what are those associations? What is it that we really want? Sometimes for me, it's that I really want social connection. Sometimes it's that I want to detach from responsibility. Sometimes it's that I want peace and calm. And those things aren't associated with what I'm going to do. And as a result, I can make different choices. The third step is make conscious adjustments. Decide on a small, achievable change for yourself. Maybe ask, how can I bring my choices into closer alignment with my values? It might mean swapping that sugary snack for Scripture. Anytime you have the desire, replace it with Scripture. You can simply open the Bible to a random page and read. Or I have a book right now, the 40 Days of Hope. Anytime I want sugar, I just open this up and read a page. And I redirect my mind, I redirect my focus. The conscious adjustment that I made after COVID, I had realized my yoga pants were even feeling tight. That was a real bummer. I was like, it's bad when the yoga pants feel tight. So I started keeping a food journal and I paid attention to what I ate. And I noticed that on the days that I drank alcohol, the following day, I craved a lot of high sodium foods. I would crave things like lo mein, green chili smothered burritos, pepperoni pizza with jalapenos, nachos. I crave nachos every day though, so that's a different story. But I noticed that after drinking, I wanted high sodium foods. So I thought to myself, if I cut alcohol, I will likely cut the connection to other bad habits. That was a root cause analysis. So when you make these small adjustments, you look at journaling as a tool to practicing that greater awareness, to practicing expanded consciousness, and really looking at how your choices are serving or not serving your highest good. And then step 4 is consider the larger system. Think about how your choices impact not just your own health, but your relationships. I noticed when I started reading the MRI studies on 1 cup of coffee and caffeine and how it actually keeps your limbic system lit up for 3 weeks because your body knows it's being poisoned. I thought, oh man, another vice that I have or thing that I love that's not good for me. And I found Everyday Dose mushroom coffee. And I replaced it with that. I noticed that my emotional regulation was better. I noticed that I didn't have that short-tempered response with my daughter on occasion when I was really tired and fatigued. So I looked at not just my own health that was being impacted by these decisions, but my relationships with those that I love. I looked at the impact that it had on my sleep, which impacted how I woke feeling restored and recharged, which impacted my focus and productivity. So there was this interconnected web that expanded as a result of my healthy choices. Systems thinking helps us think about that healthy values aligned choice and the positive influence that expands far beyond ourselves. Health touches every single aspect of our lives. Literally, as I described, what we eat determines the quality of our sleep. Our focus, our productivity is influenced by that. Even our ability to regulate our emotions and to have an elevated good mood. Food has been proven to cure things like anxiety, depression, ADHD even. So I often, whenever I think about symptoms that people may be facing, and as people come to me curious about the power of food, I often say, let's be a scholar, let's be a scientist. We're going to just Google what foods impact my mood in a positive way. You can even invite ChatGPT. I call ChatGPT my brilliant beauty. I raise my vibrational energy for her, and she writes back to me with that same tone. It's like a new best friend. So, writing to ChatGPT and saying, can you please create a menu for me of high vibrational, high energy foods that will nourish my mood? Or please share with me a few recipes that will combat depression and anxiety, or whatever it is that you might be facing. Please create some immune boosting foods. I studied immune boosting foods a lot during my cancer journey because every one of us has cancer cells in our body. And with the right variables of stress and environment, as well as diet and lifestyle choices, all of that can create, in my case, the perfect storm for cancer to make its home in my space. And I now say, cancer is not welcome in this house, and I make different biobehavioral choices. So I want to close with Romans 12:2. This seems to be my life verse. It came to me during a divine download in January of 2022. Yeah, it was January 2022. I had just gotten back from winter camp with my daughter. I was absolutely exhausted. I put on some classical music to go and rest, put my eye pillow on, and literally Romans 12:2 was brought to me. And I thought, I don't even know that verse. I hadn't picked up a Bible in, I had to look it up, 18 years it turned out. I had to ask Google what Romans 12:2 said. And it turns out this is my life verse. It says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I've often thought about the normal distribution curve and what most people do. What common practice will lead you to is common outcomes. And so I've always wanted outcomes of luxury and things that were far above the norm. And as a result, I can't input common behaviors and have the expectation of uncommon results. I have to have uncommon behaviors to achieve those uncommon results. And that's what I've spent a lifetime studying in high performance research and leadership. And so in this case, embracing that holistic, interdependent view of health allows us to make choices that aren't just reactionary, that result in temporary satisfaction. They are responsive and about lasting transformation. And I want you to think about alignment and that word. Alignment is a journey. When we experience cognitive dissonance, it doesn't mean we're failing. It's simply a signal that there's an opportunity for growth in that moment. So embrace cognitive dissonance as a guide. And remember what Philippians 4:13 says. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I didn't even fully understand that verse whenever it was brought to me during my cancer journey, but every single day when I didn't think I could face one more day of radiation, when I didn't think I could give up sugar on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, when I wasn't sure how to be the best mom when I was facing so much exhaustion and overwhelm, I would just repeat to myself, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And somehow I became strong. So with each choice, we become closer to our values, we build more strength. And when we approach cognitive dissonance with self-compassion and a growth mindset, we find ourselves empowered to make healthier, more fulfilling choices, even in the face of a world that is characterized by uncertainty and change. I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. If today's live inspired you, please take a moment to reflect on one small shift you can make. I'd love to see it in the chat and in the comments. What's one small shift that you can make to bring your values in alignment to peace and purpose in your life? Remember, together we are building brilliance in ourselves, in our families, in our communities, in our workplaces, and in our world. We are the rising tide, raising all boats and making shift happen. I love you all so very much. I raise my vibration